And welcome to me, Fieros Reborn again. Again. Every day I am reborn. I wake up from the slumber of death, and I am birthed anew into the world. And every day I go for a wee in the morning, and I think to myself, I am reborn. So, carrying on with the terribly long and annoying story of my own wonderful, horrible past. Today we are going to be focusing on Mr. B at length. It is not a subject I like to talk about. I find it quite difficult. I may well spend ages saying the same things over and over again. I might get confused. I might argue with myself about how I felt and how I feel now. I've got chips coming out of the microwave in a minute. So it's going to be an eat and talk video, and I know that some people hate this kind of video where I'm eating on camera. Fuck you, I don't give a shit. What are you going to do? Jump through the screen and bite my face off? Write snotty comments in the comment section. Arse. Arse to you. Okay, crack horse. Chips. Ooh, yeah. Plate of chips. I'm gonna oil them up, grease them up real nice. They're already, so what are they? I got them from a takeaway place. Whatever, yeah, and so they're already pre-salted and vinegared, right? But I don't think the salt actually, the salt actually went on it. So I ain't got no salt on the other ones. Son of a. Anyway, well, I like to oil them up a little bit, get them nice and greasy, give your meat a good old rub. Get it, hot, spicy meat. Hey boy, come on, let's oil up our chips. Hot, oily chips, and then we're going to salt the chips using our strange grinder. Mother. I've oiled it up, that's why. I oiled up my grinder. Oh yes. Let's salt it up real nice. You can't get enough salt in these kinds of chips, and the salt is big chunks as well, so it doesn't really stick to it very well. So you got to salt it up real good, especially if you want to have a heart condition later in life. So, okay, there you go. Mounds and mounds of ketchup. This is Fieros' cooking show. Now we put everything to the side. We drink some ginger wine. Ding! Here's one I prepared earlier. Have you recovered from seeing my buttocks? Full flesh. I bet I'll get banned for that, innit? But it's only buttocks. Unless you saw my balls. Were my balls in shot? Whatever. Okay. Some people find watching other people eat grim and gross. Well, tune away now. I fail to see why I should do anything for you. My life, my fucking channel. If you don't like it, go fuck yourself. Fuck off. Oh, but I will tell the story. Watch a bloke eating chips. So it's your own time you're wasting. Yeah, it's just going to be this. This for an hour. Man eats chips on camera. And swears at the audience in a childish way. And then sniggers about it afterwards. And then eats another chip. And then comments on his own chip eating. Thinking that he's far more amusing than he actually is. Then he sits cross-legged on his chair in his room full of books. And he eats another chip. I've only had one sip of wine. This is what it does, people. The ginger. The ginger. Right. Toss off. Good. Now that we're all on the same page, let's talk about my gay sex. My gay sex. The gay sex that I had. Well, firstly, I wanked off a bloke. Oh, I didn't wank him off. He wanked me off. We both wanked each other off, actually. It's the truth. It was a mutual wank off. So, we'd set up this party between me, him, my best friend from secondary school, who also worked where I worked, and this other girl who was... I can't remember what she was. She was a host as well. She was a host as well as Mr. B. And so we danced around, got drunk on the grass at Mr. B's house. And then, because it was some family party, like, and I just got invited along, as the other three did as well. Yeah. Whatever. Another two, sorry. Yeah, got drunk. End of the night, my friend from school and the other host girl went inside to the main house area, the main house, and the lounge area, sorry, and proceeded to get naughty, as far as I'm aware. Even though that the host girl had a boyfriend who was the head chef. So she was cheating on him with my friend. Me and Mr. B went upstairs to his room, onto his bunk bed, to sleep, but then also to do such and such together with penises. And I believe, so he sort of tempted me over by saying, oh, fine, I'll just lie here then. I'll be here if you need me. I think something like that. I'll just be over here, minding my own business. Like this far away from me. I'll be over here. You know, if you want me, you can come get me, I'm right here. And I was like, oh, fuck's sake. Well, this is why I'm here. I have come to experiment with my sexuality. Let's do it. This is why I'm here. I should bear you in mind, right? Bear in your mind, or bear in mind. Bear in mind that this was a real big deal for me at that time. This wasn't, for example, like kissing a girl. I'd kissed girls before. I'd had sex with a girl before. I'd fingered girls, I'd squeezed boobs. You know, a fair amount of experience with girls. Now, so for me, the first time with a guy was a big deal. It was a really big deal because of the homophobia associated to it. It was a big deal in terms of what it meant to me at that time. What did it mean? Did it mean that I'm going to have to then think of this new identity, sexual identity, as a gay person? And also, the initial kind of fear going, like, leading up to it was instilled in me from all the bullying and the general culture of homophobia at the secondary school I went to. So I suppose it was like, maybe nowadays, not everywhere, but in a lot of places, it would be less of a big deal. It'd be like, yeah, okay, you know, gayness or homosexuality or man on man action or woman on woman action even is much more acceptable across the board. But at that time, it wasn't so much. So for me, it was like, it was personally risky for my own sense of self. So I was challenging my own sense of self, basically, challenging my own sexual identity and stepping into an unknown territory. Which, on reflection, who cares? But at the time, it was a big deal. I was scared. It's almost like going up to the edge of a cliff, looking over the edge and going, am I going to fly? Am I going to die? Am I going to bounce off something? You know, is there a net to catch me? Are there sharks in the water at the bottom? Is there even water at the bottom? What the hell is this? So it was tricky. It was a tricky moment. But I suppose being drunk and considering I had the intention to actually experiment with my sexuality and see what it was, then that just kind of pushed me along. Again, I'm not even sure I was attracted to the guy. I think he was handsome, but it's like, I may well have only realised he was handsome afterwards, you know? It's like hard to know whether I found him attractive or not. He found me attractive. So I got my hair cut when I decided to let go of chasing after Mrs. A. I decided, right, New Year's 2005, I am going to cut my hair and move on. Because I did have long, dyed, dark brown, purple, black hair, whatever. To the point where it could be put in a ponytail. Because I was a rock star. Rock star. I thought I was a rock star. Yeah. So it worked for the band image for a while. Cut it short though. Probably, yeah, a little bit shorter than this. And back to my original colour. And when I got my hair cut, Mr. B was like, oh, I suddenly find him attractive. And I know this because he told me later. He said that when he saw me with my new haircut, he suddenly fancied me. And he hadn't previously seen me as attractive. So really, I should have kept the damn long hair. If I'd kept the long hair and still tried to get with him just for the experiment, then I wouldn't have fallen into the trap of him finding me attractive. So I would have been able to just have the experiment without it turning into a relationship that was unintended and unwanted and undecided as well. I get the feeling like I wasn't really voting on the relationship. It was just kind of, I just got swept along with it. So yeah, so we're in the bed. I believe I kissed him first, or pulled him to kiss me or something. I don't know. Moustaches, beardy, stubbly stuff. I don't like it. It's weird because, like, at the time, I was sexually aroused, got a boner. And then we mutually wanked each other. It was alright. I quite liked it. I enjoyed the maybe not. Maybe enjoyment is the wrong word. It was pleasurable. There's a difference between pleasure and enjoyment. Pleasure is like high emotional charge to it. High emotional charge. But enjoyment, I don't know. Passionate, I suppose. Passionate. But then thinking about it, now I feel gross or repulsed by it. I feel like, oh God, kissing a bloke. And even like, oh God, that sensation of the memory was like, yuck. Oh. Kissing men is something else. Something else entirely to kissing a woman, in my experience. Like, I don't know how women do it. Then maybe they must like it. They must like that feeling, but I don't like it. It's like I suddenly felt what it's like to be a woman kissing a guy, and I didn't like it. I felt like a bit like kissing myself. Like, because I had stubbly moustachey thing as well, and all kind of pheromones and male pheromones. It's like, what is it like to kiss yourself? I mean, it's kind of overpowering, really, is what it is. It's too strong. It's too masculine. It's too rough. I don't like the smell. I don't like the taste of a guy. It's too strong. The whole thing is too strong. What I like about kissing women is it's softer. You know, like the whole energy of a woman is softer than the energy of a man. The lips are softer. They don't have bristles all over the face, unless you're into that. Yeah, and the way a woman kisses is different as well. And the texture of the tongue is different as well, believe it or not. Smell is different. The feeling of the emotions are different. Hormones are different. And I think kissing a guy is just overpowering in an unpleasant way. It's not. I think at the time I was okay with it because it was just sexual feelings. But I've since kissed two other guys, intentionally, as in apart from the assaults that I'd been through. And it was the same sort of thing. Apart from the one in the restaurant, which was like a 10-second kiss, which was actually quite good. But another guy, I just don't like the feeling of the beardy thing, the smell, the lip texture. I don't know, and it's just I feel like I should be able to enjoy it, but I don't. Basically, I feel like part of me says, you should be. In order to not be homophobic, you should be able to enjoy a man-on-man kiss. But is that the same as being homophobic, or is that just stating a preference of experience that you just don't like the feeling of a certain experience, so you choose not to? It doesn't mean to say you're going to be mean to gay people because of it, or you're going to hold prejudiced views against gay people because of it. It's just like, I've tried it and I don't like it. But there is a part of me that is that tells me it's homophobic to say that you don't like kissing men, because it brings up the image of the ultra straight person who is trying to maintain his sense of straightness at all costs, who will go around saying, "Ugh, kissing blokes is wrong, or it's gross, or it's disgusting." So that feels a bit like that, to say that I didn't enjoy it, or that I don't like it, or that it turns me off, or I can get a sexual response from it, but I don't enjoy it on an emotional level, or on a psychological level, or on a sort of physical sensation level. My body is responding because it's being touched sexually, but it's not something that I choose to do, and I don't enjoy the feeling of it. And even to imagine kissing another guy now brings a feeling of yuck feeling. That was probably a homophobic giggle. It's just so, I don't know, it's so hard to just accept that I don't enjoy male sexual contact. And why is that hard to just say, I don't enjoy it, and it's not what I'm about, and I don't like it? And to be okay with that. Like there's a force inside me that says, no, you should enjoy it, because it's bad to say that it's homophobic to say that you don't like men, or you don't like kissing men, or what is that part of me that is driving me to try and to force myself to enjoy something I don't like? Well, that's a bit how I felt like Mr. B was with regard to sex as well. So maybe that's where it came from, because I struggled with the sex stuff with Mr. B throughout our whole relationship, because probably because I didn't enjoy it, but I hadn't really recognised that was what it was. I kept making excuses not to have sex, and I didn't want too much contact. I felt grossed out every time he touched me. I recoiled from him a lot, like and even thinking about it now, the more I actually think about it, the more that I wasn't enjoying it, and just not letting on that I wasn't enjoying it, and trying to make myself go along with it, kind of thing. We went through a lot of difficult discussions and arguments, more discussions than arguments, but about me not wanting to have sex with him, and me not wanting to do anything sexual with him. And I was trying various different ways to get out of having sex with him. Like, I tried to justify it through Buddhism somehow. I looked on the internet for some homophobic Buddhist text, if I could find anything, and I found one thing somewhere after a bit of time looking for it, where it says something about gay being wrong. So I managed to find something, and I brought that up to him, and I said, "Look, see, I'm a Buddhist. I shouldn't be doing it, and I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to go celibate now." So that was annoying for him. But it was also like, I just was not settled in the whole gay thing. I was not settled in myself at all about it. Like, I couldn't I couldn't marry up the fact that I was in a gay relationship, yet I still fancied women, and I was enjoying the company of women a hell of a lot more than the company of my boyfriend. And also the feeling of being with a woman, the kissing of a woman, the smell of a woman, was all way more attractive and way more pleasurable and just nicer for me than being with my boyfriend. And like, there's nothing wrong with him physically. He was an attractive man. Uh, he was good looking in the face. He had a fairly decent body. You know, he wasn't overweight or anything. Even though he was self-conscious about his weight, he wasn't overweight. And he's a good looking, fairly like physically fit person, with nothing wrong with him in that sense. So, like, I mean, he didn't stink really bad, is what I'm saying. Like, so the smell is just a personal preference thing. It wasn't that he smelled bad because he were, you know, I don't know, he stank of some horrible odor. It was just that the man smell was not a smell that I enjoyed. So it wasn't that he smelled bad objectively, if that makes sense. It was just that the feeling I got from the smell of him was not nice. And it was kind of like a painful feeling. Like, it would bring me pain to kiss him sometimes. I just would be like, oh, like I don't want to do this. Like, and then later on, I started crying when we would have sex, and I couldn't understand why I was crying. And I realized that maybe it's because I'm forcing myself to do something that I am not enjoying. Yeah. And so it was tricky, and like, I feel bad for him in a way, because he must have felt pretty shit being in a relationship with someone who really didn't want to be in a relationship with him. So he must have felt like self-esteem was like pretty low, considering, you know, his boyfriend from his perspective was always trying to get out of having sex with him and always trying to chase after women. Like, that his boyfriend was there mainly because he wanted me to be there, and I was just too afraid to leave, because Mr. B was someone who would be emotionally manipulative by throwing a hissy fit or a wobbly fit, or whatever you call it, getting hysterical. If I tried to dump him or leave him or spend any particular length of time away from him, he would start to whine. He would start to spasm, like literally spasm out, like, and like threaten. What would he threaten? I don't know. Maybe he would threaten suicide, but I'm not sure. I might be pushing it there. But he would. He was just. He had this way of causing a big emotional fuss, basically, to the point where I would feel guilty, that I feel like it's my fault, and then so I felt like I had to stay with him, and so I did stay with him. Okay, what else? So after, let's try and do the story a bit more linearly. After the first occasion of sex, contact, sex, whatever, masturbation thing that we did together in his room, I don't remember the morning other than finding my friend and this other girl with her tits out, downstairs, with him looking like he was about to shag her, basically. So that happened when we finished upstairs. Pardon me. Yeah. So we walked in on them after we'd finished doing stuff, and we're like, "What the hell?" And then, and then this voice started coming from like over the hills, which was her boyfriend who'd come back from work, who was like shouting her name, blah 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 blah. I'm not gonna say her name, but blah blah, over in the hills, right? And we were like, "What the hell is that?" And it was like, and then he was obviously drunk as well from some after work drinks or something, and he was like, "Rah rah," like that, shouting her name, "Rah rah," really loud, like at the top of his voice, so the whole neighborhood can hear. So he was coming along drunk as hell, shouting and screaming her name. And so we all went out to see what this fuss was about, and he shows up, drunk as a skunk, effing and blinding and wondering where she was and like why she wasn't responding to his calls or texts or something or whatever. I think he might have even walked back to where we were, which is a considerable walk, like more than half an hour's walk at night in the dark. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly how he got back. And then so Mr. B's dad came out, not knowing what the hell was going on. It could have been anyone, and he had a shovel. I think it was a shovel. Yeah, he had a shovel, like ready to bash someone, basically. And that was a sign that I did not like about Mr. B's family. They were very like overprotective. Like he brings out a shovel. Like, what was he going to do? Would he ever actually use it, or was it just a threat? And just that really stunned me, because this is a middle class guy, upper middle class actually. He had his money in property. He basically owned a lot of the local area where we were living, in terms of properties. He owned a lot of properties that he was renting, so he was wealthy in that from that. And so then he comes out with a shovel, but just because some drunk guy is shouting down the road, and I'm thinking this is an inappropriate response. So that kind of scared me, really, is the right word to say. It scared me. And it was also bizarre, and I didn't think that he would, because he was otherwise a very gentle type of person. So, but the way that he was with the shovel as well was just very scary. So it was like something had turned in him, that he wasn't his normal gentle self. He was a very kind of scary, is all I can say, scary man in that moment. And me and Mr. B and the other two were just kind of like there in shock, really, about what was going on. So this other guy shows up, and then Mr. B's dad's there with a shovel, like telling him to fuck off or go away. And then eventually it just fizzled out. Nothing happened. Nothing violent happened anyway. And I guess I drove home, still kind of drunk, at about 5 or 6 a.m. because it was just like everyone had to go home. Yeah, so that was pretty rough. And yeah, there was a weird night in very many different ways. And then I presume, I mean, I don't remember actually like the sort of few days following that, but I presume that I just carried on, went to work, and then I remember another occasion when I decided, loosely decided, I mean, decision is kind of a bit strong. I realized I was already in a relationship with Mr. B, so it's just a very weird decision that I made, which was, I'm already in a relationship with Mr. B. I got stoned with that same friend, my friend from school. I got stoned one time around his house, like after work or before work. No, after work, yeah. And just looked through my text messages, and a lot of them were from Mr. B. And I was like, oh, being stoned, man, I already am in a relationship with him, man. And also at the same time, I was pointing out the different DVDs on the shelves to my friend and pointing out which ones I believe belonged to his dad and which one belonged to him and which one belonged to his mum. Yeah, because I was stoned and I thought I had psychic powers. And I was getting it right, to be fair. Yeah, and then so I looked at my phone and I was like, oh man, but I look at all these conversations. These aren't just text messages coming in. I'm responding to these text messages too. So like, I'm basically already in a relationship with him anyway, man. And I decided to make it official that I was in a relationship with him, or somehow decided to be in a relationship with him because I felt like I already was in a relationship with him or something. Oh, man. Yeah. And, if it was anything else, I would be like, oh, big deal, whatever. And it's just a relationship. Relationships come and go. But, yeah. this was an important one because of how things went down during and after. It's like a pivotal relationship in many ways. So again, like I can't really remember how we continued on after that point. I remember going round to his house. Oh yeah, man, this sucks. I used to be really into hypnosis. Um, because I'd watched the Paul Mckenna show when I was a kid, like I was 9 or 10, and Paul Mckenna was quite big on TV in the 90s, turning people into chickens in hypnosis and making people think they're Elvis and say stupid words whenever a trigger word was said and stuff, and make them forget who they were or whatever. And so he was doing his stage hypnosis show, and I was watching it on TV. And I bought his little book. He had like this book out called The Hypnotic World of Paul Mckenna, which talks a little bit about the history of hypnosis, and then it also talks about techniques for trance induction and also self-hypnosis techniques as well. Yeah, so it was all this big thing for me at that time, and I was like, whoa. So I bought this book when I was like age 9 or 10 and tried it a little bit and asked my mum to read out some of the exercises to me so that we could just see what it was like. Because it was cool, like, I guess I thought that maybe I could like hypnotize myself to, or I don't know, or learn how to do it, and then maybe be like Paul Mckenna and hypnotize people to think they're a chicken. I don't know. As a kid, like I don't really know what my intention was, but I just was kind of interested and enthusiastic about this subject for a brief period anyway. So I got the book, as I said, tried out some of it, didn't really read the stuff that much. I just kind of skipped to the bits about trance induction, and again I kind of didn't really understand what I was reading. And I was mainly like looking at the pictures and trying to understand what the pictures meant. Yeah, got my mum to do a bit of this self-hypnosis stuff on me, some of the exercises, but I didn't feel like it worked. It may well have worked more than I understood, but I didn't feel it worked. Anyway, later on in life, fast forward 10 years or so, and I'm 19 and getting stoned with people, and suddenly my interest in hypnosis recurs, and I find the book of Paul Mckenna's The Hypnotic World of Paul Mckenna, available now on Amazon, on BarnesandNoble.com. Well, yeah, found the book again and suddenly revitalized my interest in this topic, and read it like from with an adult brain, or a teenage brain at least, that I could actually understand some of the concepts a bit better and knew what it was actually saying, and the pictures made sense finally, and I kind of got back into it, and I actually did hypnotize some people, and did some demonstrations of the what do you call it, like stage hypnosis type hypnosis. There was this holiday I went on when I was 18. I think it was to Greece or maybe Turkey, or Greece, Turkey. What's the difference? A lot of big difference. Yeah, but yeah. So went on holiday. I think it was Greece or Turkey. Greece. Greece is sounding more correct. Went on a holiday to Greece with my family, and I took this book with me, right? And so I was reading about this stuff, and I was doing. I was also reading a book by the Dalai Lama called "The Art of Happiness: The Way to a Meaningful Life," or so, "Practicing the Way to a Meaningful Life," something like that. I might even look this book up because I feel like I want to revisit some of these old books. The Art of Happiness: Practicing the Way to a Meaningful Life. How to practice the way to a meaningful life. That's it. How to practice the way to a meaningful life. So, I'd been told about the Dalai Lama for, oh, yeah. I'll just get you the picture because this was the, let me just show you. So I'm going to turn the camera around. Sorry. Right. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. So, how to practice. Fuck. Yeah. So this was a book I bought because I was into fuck. Let's just put this back. Right. So I need to backtrack the story again because there's other elements that come into play. You see. So we have hypnosis going on in the background. Also, I did some work with my uncle around that same time. Just some kind of casual work, doing some. Well, I think I don't know whether we dug his driveway, but we certainly filled up his driveway with new stone things. I feel like most of the digging had already been done, but we were laying down the pebbles. You know, that asphalt. What's it? Not asphalt. That's the fucking those stones. I can't remember the name of it right now. Pebbles, grit, gravel. Right, gravel. We were laying this gravel drive at my uncle's house, and he was talking to me about how he did Chinese medicine and how he'd been reading the books by the Dalai Lama, and he was going to see a Buddhist monk teacher who was teaching him Tai Chi and also teaching him some of the Buddhist meditation things and wisdom for life and stuff. And so that was some quality time I spent with my uncle, where he was telling me that he believed that the way to be happy was to help other people, and this was a major deal for my uncle at that time, at least. And I presume he would say the same thing now as well, that his most pressing value is to be helping other people on a daily basis in some way, and that he helps other people with his Chinese medicine practice and acupuncture and things. So that was his recipe for happiness at that time. He subsequently seems a little depressed every time I see him, so I'm not sure if it's working out for him. It didn't work out for me either. So, you know, I subsequently believe, yes, okay, helping people is great, but you have to be in a self-filled place. You have to have your own energy source in place in order to help other people, because if you become obsessed or over focused on helping other people, then what can happen, and did happen with me and does happen with many people, is that you lose your center and you lose your integrity and you lose your energy, because you overvalue helping other people or being there for other people, and you don't value your own self. You don't feature yourself into the equation as a person who needs help, who needs care, who needs love, who needs support, who needs rest, who needs rejuvenation. So it can become too one-sided, overly focused on helping others without helping yourself first, and making sure that you take enough time to get your own needs met. Yeah, I mean, I noticed this. A lot of people in a hospitality environment do this, or in the caring professions, they do this. They overcare about the others, and they don't take care of themselves well enough anyway. So later on, their work begins to suffer, or their attitude towards their work begins to suffer, because they don't have the energy for it anymore. They've based their whole life on caring for other people, and they haven't cared for the one person who is here starting first. You know, the first person you have to take care of is yourself, because if yourself gets fucked, then you can't care for anyone else. I mean, it's pretty simple. If you get ill, then how are you going to help anyone else? You can't. If you get depressed, how are you going to help anyone else? You can't. If you get run down emotionally, how are you going to help anyone else? You can't. You don't have the ability anymore. You don't have the drive. So yeah, but anyway, at that time I was really impressed with this new philosophy of helping other people, and this whole Buddhist idea came into my consciousness. And you could say that that was the first piece of real spirituality that came into my life. I mean, I'd learned about Buddhism in school, and I'd learned a bit about Hinduism and Sikhism and Judaism and Christianity and Islam, all in religious education lessons, but like never as an actual thing to do myself. And Christianity was something that, fuck, it got fruit flies in my damn wine. Mm. Christianity was something that I was brought up with in primary school, because I went to a Church of England school, and Bible was in every assembly, Bible stories and Bible songs and stuff, and the Nativity and Easter and Halloween, that well-known Christian festival of Halloween. Yeah. So everything was very Christian oriented. Yeah, at primary school, and then secondary school it was not there at all, or it was there occasionally in assemblies. There would be prayers. Oh my gosh, I'm spitting and drooling. Yeah. So, but my dad was really anti-Christian. He was a vehement atheist during that time of his life. I don't think he's so strong about it these days, but he would probably still identify as an atheist if it came to that. But he was really strong in the atheism doctrine back in those days, and it wasn't just atheism like there's no God. It was militant atheism. Like, it was atheism that was set on destroying Christianity, basically, and all other religions as well. Apart from Buddhism, to him, Buddhism didn't count as a religion. It was more of a philosophy, and he was happy with that one. Probably because they didn't believe in a god or gods specifically. Although they do have certain tantric practices and meditation practices and devotional practices that are focused around deities. La 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 la, blah. Right. So basically, what I'm saying is, Buddhism at that time in my life, when I was 18 years old, was an acceptable form of spirituality, or an acceptable form of religion for me, to give me some sense of meaning in my life and something to work towards that was beyond myself, that had an aspirational nature to it, that it wasn't just about me and my success, or it gave a wider context for me and my success. For example, I started to think about the things that I was doing in my music more in a social context, and how this can be of benefit to other people as well. So it wasn't just about me expressing my own feelings and my own selfish kind of little viewpoint on life. It was like I suddenly became more of a social activist as well, and I felt like I wanted to change the world, and I became aware of global warming even more strongly than ever before, and environmental issues and animal issues came as well from that. So I became basically what we would now call a social justice warrior. But let me go back to the point where I was doing this driveway with my uncle, laying these pebble gravel things, right? So he was telling me about this Buddhist philosophy of helping other people being the way to a meaningful life. And then I bought this book. I took that book on that holiday to Greece, as well as the Hypnosis book by Paul Mckenna. And so these are my two little books that I was reading. And I was practicing a kind of meditation, hypnosis type of thing, where I'd sit down on a pillow, and it was kind of like self hypnosis. It was a self hypnosis type of meditation. I feel like I was kind of doing the sitting on the pillow from the Buddhism type of thing, and then doing the self hypnosis from the Paul Mckenna book. So I combined the two in an orgasm of mind things. Yeah. So one of the things that I learned in the Paul Mckenna book was that you can use self hypnosis to change your emotional state and to make yourself more productive, or to bring certain positive qualities into your way of being for a brief period of time anyway. So I was like using it to be enthusiastic, to bring energy into my body and to kind of uplift myself. So I was self-hypnotizing myself, such that when I came out of the hypnosis, I was like programming my mind to be in a happy way of being, so that I would get up and I'd be full of energy. And I was self-hypnotizing myself, put myself into a sort of trance, and then give myself those suggestions that when I come out of trance, I will move into an energetic and upbeat and happy way of being. And it really worked. It was the power of self-suggestion. I told myself I was going to do that, and then I went and acted that out and felt that way afterwards. And I'm not even going to really challenge that, because even if you say something like, oh, well, it's just the power of suggestion. Well, yeah, that is exactly what it is. It's the power of suggestion. And what's the difference between just saying I'm going to do it and doing it? Or what's the difference between acting and reality? I don't care, you know. For me, it worked. I just sat on a pillow, set my intention to, after the session, I would come raise my energy up, and I would be upbeat and happy and with lots of energy, and then it worked that way. So that happened. So fine. And also, another reason I did it was because I was deciding from the Buddhism stuff, because the 5 of the precepts of Buddhism are stuff like no meat, no, is it no meat? No killing, no lying, no intoxicants, so no alcohol or drugs. Oh God, I don't remember them. Did I say stealing? Okay, no killing, lying, intoxicants, stealing, and I don't know. Pardon me. There's another one. 5 precepts, right? The name might not be correct. Let's read them. 5 precepts of Buddhism. No harming of living things, no taking what is not given, thieving, no sexual misconduct. Ooh, I did not know that. Oh, well, that's in that particular one. We've got a different one over on the right, which is do not harm any living being, do not steal, respect each other, which is the sexual misconduct one by the look of it, speak kindly of others, which is no lying or gossip, and avoid action that are harmful to your body and mind, which is don't take intoxicating substances, e.g. drugs or drink. So the idea of these really is to put your mind in your mind and body in a place that is conducive to the state of enlightenment. So, and it's also a morality to keep social order and to make sure that we don't do bad things to each other, because we all know that if you get drunk and drugged up, you tend to do stupid shit to yourself and other people. Yeah, so we've got the onslaught of breathing. I undertake the training precept to abstain from onslaught on breathing beings. I undertake the training precept to abstain from taking what is not given. I undertake the training precept to abstain from misconduct concerning sense pleasures. I undertake the training precept to abstain from false speech. I undertake the training precept to abstain from alcoholic drink or drugs that are an opportunity for heedlessness. Ooh, heedlessness. Oh, very good. Unobservance. You cannot be observant of your mental state if your mental state is obscured by a drink or drug. Well, whatever. I was trying to uphold these precepts. I particularly like the one of doing no harm to other breathing, sentient beings, living beings. Right? Maybe that's where I got the idea from the sexual misconduct thing, from something like that, as a reason that I justified, like, for about an hour or 2 to not have sex with my boyfriend. But yeah, so I was taking these like precepts, and I was starting to become vegetarian, or started reducing my meat, then I became vegetarian, and then later on I became vegan. I didn't quite go to fruitarianism, but it was on the cards. Or breatharianism, no. Right, so one of the reasons why I was doing the self-hypnosis stuff was because I needed a way of still interacting socially while other people were drunk, and for me to be able to have a good time while I was sober. Because being sober when everyone else was drunk, at that time in my life anyway, was a real buzzkill. You know, it was really fucking shit. And then you go to a place where everyone's drunk and you just look around and you think, what a bunch of idiots talking absolute shit. But of course, when you are drunk, it's great because you're a bunch of idiots talking a bunch of shit. And that's the fun of it. But yeah, so I was like, okay, I've decided to take on these precepts, and I'm a Buddhist now, and I'm going to do this. And so I needed to find a way to still enjoy social stuff when people were drunk. So I did this self-hypnosis thing to make myself in a positive frame of mind, and it worked for a while. And then I still ended up getting drained after a few hours, but it was definitely better than before. All right, so what does that lead me on to? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I was trying to talk about Mr. B. I mean, I think I let go of the drinking one pretty quick. I definitely got drunk. The meat one, I didn't stick with that for very long, but I got a, oh man, it's so fucking confusing. I was definitely a vegetarian for ages, and my parents gave me hell for it for a while. And my dad was always arguing with me, and people were arguing with me about why I should be a vegetarian or why shouldn't I be a vegetarian and stuff. Okay. So that was an early period in my life where I was trying to find a sense of spirituality and understanding and meaning and sort of bigger purpose in my life. And then I don't know how we got started on this and why I went back to that point. I mean, I was in this, still had this mentality of wanting to help other people, and had this mentality of wanting to be Buddhist and wanting to achieve enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, which is one of the mantras that you repeat, or you set as an intention, that you set your intention to achieve enlightenment for the sake not only of yourself but of all sentient beings. I can't remember how this relates to Mr. B, so sorry if you understand why it relates to Mr. B, but I don't know why it relates to Mr. B right now. It's not to do with the sex thing. Well, yeah, I mean, after the first sexual interaction with him, we blah, 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 blah. I remember going around to his house and telling him that I loved him. Oh yeah, hypnosis, right. There is a through line. So, because I was interested in this hypnosis stuff, there's other things to talk about as well. God damn it. Hypnosis played a role in various different scenarios. So I was doing hypnosis. I later on actually did a course in hypnosis as well. It was supposed to be a 10-month course, but I only did 6 months of it. So it all kind of ties in. So I'm partially qualified as a clinical hypnotherapist, and I use the word qualified loosely, very loosely. Even people who complete the course, I would still say that the word qualified as a clinical hypnotherapist is a very, very loose term, because the training is shoddy. It's 10 months hypnotherapy training, right? 10 months, which is only actually 10 weekends worth of training, and some practice sessions that you have to conduct in your own time. 10 weekends worth, and a booklet you read through, and some suggested reading books. 10 weekends, and you come out of it with a little certificate that you can put on your wall, and you can be in private practice as a hypnotherapist after 10 weekends and £2,000 or £2,500 worth of spending. That's bullshit. That's utter bullshit. And then if you look at the training to be a counsellor or a psychotherapist, it's like either a degree and then some extra training in the field and then extra work to get validated or authenticated, whatever it is, as a psychologist or psychotherapist. And then as a counsellor, you have to do level 2, level 3, level 4, and then this kind of ongoing level 5 training for a year or two. And so that's like 4 years minimum, I think, to train as a counsellor. Maybe less than that, I don't know. But yeah, so, and a clinical hypnotherapist has a little thing on their wall saying that they're a clinical hypnotherapist after 10 months worth of training, which I think is actually wrong, morally wrong. I think that's bad practice to claim you're a therapist after such little training. I would just wonder about the amount of people who go to a hypnotherapist seeking help and who are turned away or end up leaving disappointed or feeling like it was a pile of shit. Anyway, right, I'm gonna have to try and wrap this video up. So one of the things that I was doing with Mr. B was doing little hypnosis sessions where I tried to help him stop smoking. I hypnotized him so that he would not be able to bring a cigarette to his face, so he would only get it to a certain point and then his hand would get stuck. And that worked actually, but he got around it by using his other hand. He got around it by other people giving him the cigarette into his mouth. I also got it so that he would be hypnotized to not be able to use his lighter, and that worked as well, but then he got around it by using matches or someone else to light his cigarette. So, but that was interesting because the power of that suggestion on the unconscious mind really did work. Like, he was there going like, I can't bring the thing to my face. Obviously that wasn't an effective way of achieving the result of not smoking, but it was certainly interesting for me as a budding hypnotherapist person. I've got a fly in my fucking drink. Great, sentient being bitten the dust. So yeah, so I did some of that, and I was trying to help him with his problems because he was whining about some ex-boyfriend of his, and then I found that I was already in a relationship with him or something, so whatever. Let's leave it there. Fuck this.